Hi YouTube, HedgieChins here, back with another video. So the box has not reached here yet, but I decided to make another video this week of something that I feel is a really important topic to discuss. And that way it gives you some background slash extra information that you might want to know before adopting a pet. So this is going to be about the after effects of pets that come from the pet store or neglected slash mistreated homes. Now, I am pro-adoption 150,000%. Although some of my guys have come from the pet store, I am pro-adoption. There are ups and downs to both, I think. In my experience, I've done quite a bit of both. I think I've done more adopting than purchasing. But anyways, so let's see. I have five guys that were from the pet store. Duchess, oh no, I got a lot from the pet store. Okay, Duchess, Flower, Hippie, Pebbles, and Rodolfo are all from the pet store. And I can tell you from experience that all of them, do not like to be grabbed. It took a while for them to trust me, and even so, I don't just grab them out of their cage because it does bring back their memories and it does frighten them, so I've learned not to do that. And the reason is that pigs can see on the side of their face like a snake. So if you're coming at them from their back, they think that it's a predator or something out to get them, and it makes them even more scared. So what I like to do to pick up the pigs, for example, is to make sure that they can see my hands. So I let them take a look at what I'm doing. I take a quick freeze and I don't just grab them, and then I'll scratch their ears with my thumbs and massage their ears a little bit, then kind of sneak my hands back under their body and lift. And that seems to help. For those of you who have chinchillas know that it's not easy to grab them. So, I mean, I don't really grab them. I kind of let them do their own thing for playtime. The only reason I would have to grab them is to put them back in the cage, but even so, I've had quite a few stories with that, and there's really no other way to do it than to just grab them, you know? So, the problem with the pet stores is that the kids or people are always tapping on the glass to the tanks, to the cages, and I mean, that's kind of spooky. Can you imagine being in this confined area that someone is constantly poking at and grabbing at? And I mean, it's like it never ends until somebody buys you. And I mean, that can be very stressful. And then, of course, you have the people who will go to the pet store and want to pick you up. So the store clerk or whatever will come by the cage and grab them over and over and over again without any experience with animals. And it's a form of mistreating them because they will do anything. I've seen store clerks grab animals in the absolute most terrible ways, and like you would think that their little bones would get crushed in that person's hands. Like, it's that serious. And you have to prepare yourself if you want to shop rather than adopt. You have to prepare yourself that you're probably not going to get a pet that is going to come straight to you. You're going to have to work with them. And that's something you should definitely know about creatures from the pet store, is that's the reasoning behind them not wanting you to touch them or them running. Every time they see you, they're just frightened. It takes a while to get out of that. So what I like to do is when I bring them home, I put them in their setup and I leave them alone. Just leave them for 2 days. Just check on them, but don't touch the cage. Don't, unless you have to fill food or water. Try to be as minimally invasive as possible and give them that space. That way they can get acquainted with their new living environment, and as well as getting acquainted with how they will be living. And what I mean by that is Rodolfo was also in the same situation as the pigs. Duchess and Flower were in a fish tank that was a 20-gallon fish tank, which is really small. I think it's like 12 inches by, I don't know, I want to say 18 inches. It's small. It's probably about that big and 12 inches wide. And they were housed in there with 2 other pigs. Can you imagine how crowded that was? I mean, when I saw it and there was one house on one side of the tank that was taking up half of the space, so it was extremely crowded. And I mean, I didn't blame them. As soon as I brought them home, they would flee. They were just like, please don't touch me. And I was totally fine with that, and I gave them so much space. I don't know if you guys remember the first guinea pig cage tour, but it was pretty big. It was like a 2x8 CNC cage for 2 piggies. And I mean, I felt so bad. Like, I don't understand like how that works in that lady's mind, like how she could keep them like that. I mean, 4 guinea pigs in a 20-gallon fish tank, that's ridiculous. I would not even put more than maybe 2 hamsters in there. Even so, I'd probably only house 1 hamster, and that's still pretty small. But it's how they came, and Rodolfo was the same way. The store clerk was like, I'm not about to try and catch that thing. He's like running all over the place. And it took me about 20 minutes. I was the one who caught him because, like I said, the hands are always grabbing at him. So when I went to go get him, he came from PetSmart. And I mean, he was jumping all over this small tank. And you would think that because of the size of the tank, I could have grabbed him easily, and I couldn't. He was really jumping all over the place. So, and he's still kind of like that. He's still like, and he'll bark now if you try and grab him. So I try not to like really bother them in certain ways. So I do just take them out for playtime, put them back. That's pretty much the only time I grab. And I do little scratches, but that's another topic. But anyways, so you have to be prepared for that when you bring your new pet home from the pet store, that's probably going to be an issue. It may not be, but in my experience, all of my pets that have come from the pet store have had that problem. So beware of that and be cautious. Now, versus adoption. Adoption can be a little tricky too. It depends on where you're adopting from. Cleo and Lilo came from the animal shelter in Boston, and the problem with them is that their prior situation to going to the rescue was so horrific that they were in hiding. If they saw anybody in the room, they would just go in the house and they would stay there until that person left. Like, that's how scared they were of people. So that's also something to consider. I would definitely, if you're looking at an animal on like Pet Finder, and and he or she is at a local shelter, I would suggest going in there, which is what we did. We went a day before we adopted them, and we were able to spend some time getting acquainted with them, holding them, petting them, giving them treats. And I think that helped a little bit. They're still, I mean, even Cleo now, she's still pretty skittish, but Lila was actually getting pretty good. Unfortunately, you guys know that we lost her a few months ago. And I think that also had something to do with the living conditions. So, hang on for a second. I'm making brownies, so I'm going to be popping in and out of the video every so often. I think they're done because I smell them. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, sorry. Okay, so yeah, Cleo and Lilo. So I would definitely suggest going to the shelter. And if you're looking to bond someone, let's say you already have a guinea pig or a chinchilla that you want to get a friend for, if you know a little bit about the animal that you have already, if you know their personality, kind of what they like, what they don't like, are they territorial? Do they have issues with with sharing? That plays a big factor in finding a friend for them. I've tried the chins out. I have 3 chins that are living alone. Rodolfo, Gizmo, and Honka, they are all living alone because they are completely uncompatible so far. All of them are very territorial, and that causes an issue for placing them with a friend, no matter how big the space is. I've noticed that the problem is, I'm going to try to explain this. So, let's say there's a tunnel on one half of the cage, and Rodolfo's sitting in there, and then Gizmo's on this side eating food, and he sees Rodolfo in the tunnel. He wants to sit in the tunnel, so he's gonna go bug Rodolfo, bite him, and do really mean things, push him out of the tunnel. He'll sit in the tunnel, and then he'll look down. He sees Rodolfo has now moved on and started eating the food. He wants the food now. It's like it's a back and forth thing, and Rodolfo's pretty much the same way. Although Rodolfo likes to urinate on everybody, so and obviously nobody likes to get peed on, so that has caused an issue for bonding. So back to going to an animal shelter, meeting your possible cage mate, the possible cage mate for your current pet can really help determine by you first, should we or should we not try this. A lot of rescues now, a lot of chinchilla rescues are having the option for you to try out chinchillas, and it kind of makes me sad because for me, I would keep them anyways, even if they didn't get along. That's just how I am. But they are allowing you to take a chinchilla home and work with them over the period of 30 to 60 days and work on bonding them. If it works out, obviously you can fill out the paperwork and sign all the stuff, and they become your responsibility, your owner. You're the owner, you know. So I think that's a good idea if you are looking for a cage mate for one of your pals. And the good thing about rescues and adoption agencies for pets is that they have people that come in and volunteer their time to spend with the animals, to play with them, to pet them, to feed them properly. And that makes a huge difference compared to the pet stores, because when you're going to a pet stores, you don't have somebody on hand that are going to be constantly playing with the animals and giving them some sort of attention. And whereas at a shelter you do have that, so they're a little bit getting, they have the time to get to know people um, before they go home with you. So of course, as soon as you take them home, they have to get used to you because you're a new set of hands, and um, that can take some time. I've had Duchess. She's my longest living pig so far, and we've had her for almost 2 years now. 2 years? Wow. Yeah, I think so. About 2 years. I think. I could be totally wrong. I'd have to look back at the videos on here. Um, and it took her up until now, really, to trust me. She would scream bloody murder. You would think that someone is strangling her every time you go to even put your hand in the cage. She would just run for the hills and she would start screaming. So, that, I mean, it's taken a while and now we're here, and she seems to be doing very well with having just two cage mates and the space. So they are living in a 2x5 CNC, which is the standard size for 3 pigs. And they're doing really well. They spend most of their time eating, and I actually have to rearrange the cage as soon as the Twilight Chinchillas box comes in. I did place a few items for them, so I think that'll help keep the cage kind of in a more organized way, so that there's more running space. But right now, I mean, there's plenty of running space. That's not seem to be the problem. I just have to put pads, like pee pads, all over the place because I don't know why, but all of a sudden they just want to go wherever is necessary. And when we were living in Boston, they would go in just one area. So I was able to maintain the cage a lot easier. But I find that now I have to clean the cage at least twice a day to do the upkeep. But I'm just happy that they're happy. And they're all doing really really well. So um, let's see, another issue that you would probably have with adoption is, like I said, their conditions before they got to the rescue. A lot of rescues do put animals on hold for a certain amount of time. I think they put Cleo and Lilo on hold for about 30 days. They had a lot of cuts and scrapes and things from their previous living conditions. And I think one of them had an ear infection, and Cleo had an eye infection. So they were administering quite a few medications for both of them. By the time we adopted them, though, Lilo was totally fine, and Cleo just had to take some medication for her eye. So, I mean, it is good that they place them on hold like that, but also there's just some things that certain animals really just can't come back from. And that's where the word special needs comes in. Just, obviously, despite the animals that have who have lost a limb or something, special needs animals also can be a mental thing, as far as something that they just can't come back from, the traumatic injuries that they may have had before they got there. I don't know exactly what kind of living conditions Cleo and Lilo were in. All the lady told us is that they were found in an abandoned house with 21 other guinea pigs, and God only knows when the last time they ate was. So, and the bedding, if it's not changed, that can cause a load of infections. So even if the vet gives them an okay there, a lot of things, like I said, mentally they may not come back from, but also there's certain things that stay with them, that won't affect them now in the now, but will affect them later on in life. For example, we have been struggling a little bit with Cleo's weight. Her weight has been up and down for like the last few months. She's always been on the smaller side, but recently I've noticed that her weight has stayed pretty down. I think the lowest that I recorded was 530 grams, which is super, super tiny for a guinea pig. I think the standard weight is at least 745. So she's really under the healthy, I guess. But I have taken her to the vet like about 3 times in the past 5 months, and they said she's fine. She's just really skinny. So I've been trying to give her a little bit of extras to kind of plump her up a little bit. Some oats on the side, just as like little treats. Some vitamin C, fruits and vegetables with a little bit of extra vitamin C. I don't do that all the time, but I try to do it every now and again, especially when I see that she's really going down. So she's been between 600 and or 530 grams to 625 grams about, for the last few months. So as long as she stays within those margins, I don't really see a problem. And as long as she's acting normally, I think we're pretty much in the clear with her as far as the vet says. He said it's really nothing to be concerned about. That's just the way that she looks. But by adopting an animal with the living conditions, for example, of how Cleo and Lilo were living, it can affect, first of all, where they're placed. It can, because you really have to have, number one, the time to really invest in animals like Cleo and Lilo, and Duchess, who just didn't trust human hands because of how poor their conditions were. So it just depends on you. You have to, that's why I said it, I think it's a good idea for you to make a trip to the the shelter, and don't feel bad if you're like, you know what, this really isn't for me. Don't feel bad. What's bad is if you take them home and you really don't have the time and you can't put in the time. That's bad. But don't feel bad if you say, you know what, I decided that this isn't for me. I don't have the time. I don't have the space. Or if you go to the shelter and you decide that this guinea pig is not for you, but this pair is, don't feel bad, because someone will come along and get them, especially if it's a no-kill shelter. They will hang on to them as long as they need to until they get them a home. And a lot of the shelters are transporting. There is a huge frog outside. Ew, I hate frogs. Sorry. What was I saying? Yeah, so don't feel bad if you can't, or if you choose one animal over another, because of their personality, or because they seem a little bit friendlier. It depends on you. I found that I had the time, and I still have the time, to invest in them if someone were to slide downhill, have an illness, God forbid, or just need a little bit of extra attention. I have that time to do so. Even with a baby on the way, I think my workload especially is a little bit lighter down here, so it's been an easier road, I guess. But I don't plan on adopting anyone else. I think this is it for me. and the chins will probably be around. Obviously, unfortunately, the guinea pigs won't be around as long as the chinchillas, and Pebbles will not be around as long as the chinchillas. But I'm gonna try and spend, whatever time we do have, and that could be, it's unfortunate, but adopting animals from anywhere, whether it's the pet store, um, and or a shelter, and you've invested time, sometimes things happen and they get sick for really no reason. Sorry. And they'll pass very suddenly, and it's sad. But what you need to hold on to is really what you've done for them. Especially if you've known that you've given them a good home, you know that you invested the time and you did everything you could. That's really what counts. And I really hope that the guinea pigs will be, my three that I have left out of my original five. I hope that they will hang on for a while, because I really do hope to work with them as much as I can to get them back to feeling a little bit more happy about being around people. And I think I've done a pretty good job. That's not to be cocky. It's just I've really tried my hardest, and I've really invested the time and the money, because they are very expensive little buggers. But I think it's very rewarding at the end. But again, it depends on you as the person. So don't feel obligated. Don't what is the word? When you buy something, but buying on impulse, don't buy on impulse. Don't buy animals on impulse, please. And don't go to the rescue and feel obligated to adopt somebody, because let's say you wanted to go there specifically to find a guinea pig, and you spend some time with him or her and you realize that it's not for you. Don't feel bad. It's a lot worse if you bring them home and you can't do it. So just think about it really hard, and think about all the things that I said if you are looking to adopt, and you're thinking about bringing someone home. Do the research and take into consideration, you know, that you might have to work with them for some time, and some will not come back from the terrible things that they've been through. So just make sure you know that, and that's both of those things apply to whether you're adopting or shopping. Although, again, I prefer adoption because you do have people who are there to support you. I even where we adopted Honka from, they even have someone on staff that if you bring your chinchilla home and you've noticed that there's some behavioral problems, there is someone actually who will come to your house and assess the situation and see if there's something that they could do to help, or see if there's something that they could just do in general. If there's any, like like Rodolfo, I should definitely speak to a vet about his urinating problems, but I haven't. So, anyways, so that's it for today, guys. Hopefully the box will be here next week, at the beginning of the week. That would just seriously make my week. I've been waiting for this box forever. Like I told you guys before, it's been like 3 weeks since she shipped it, and there was that mess with the that it had to go up to Boston because I forgot to tell her that I had moved. And the post office has not been good about updating me on the tracking. So we'll see. But anyways, I'll see you guys next week, hopefully, and take care and have a great weekend. Bye.